This is Alex and this is my second video essay for the Biology 557 course. And so the question, is it okay for us to ask questions that cannot be repeated in the lab or have occurred only once? Personally, I think yes. I think it's important to keep in mind that those um, questions are untestable, um, and that kind of limits the conclusions you can draw from them. But I think there's even a lot of important scientific discoveries that have been made using like hypothetical questions that weren't really testable or directly repeatable in lab. Um, I think there's a famous case of Albert Einstein sitting on a train and thinking about how what the speed of the light of a flashlight would be if you shine it from the front of a train. Would it be faster than light? You know, something that he couldn't really test directly because we don't have light speed trains, but um, it ended up being useful. Um, does that place biology lower on the hierarchy of science in the context of chemistry and physics? I don't really like thinking of the sciences in sort of a hierarchy like that. I know that there is sort of an idea of like a hierarchy of like pure logic going from math to physics to chemistry to biology, and I sort of get the idea there, but I also think that that kind of downplays the fact that as you go down that hierarchy, you get more and more complex systems that you're studying. To fully describe, a chemical system, you need physics and chemistry and math. For a biological system, you need all of those. So, really, in a sense, I feel like, yeah, for systems as complicated as biological systems, we might have to like sort of boil down certain concepts and simplify them to make it make sense to form a bigger picture. But I don't really think that that places biology lower just because maybe um, some of biology isn't as like strictly testable or as rigorous, some might think. Um, So where would you draw the line on where science can and cannot be applied? I don't really draw a line. I just think it's important to keep in mind that there are areas where science doesn't can't really provide an answer. Science can't really provide an answer to like a moral question. So if, the subject is something about, a moral question, basically, I don't think you can really do a scientific study or experiment to figure out what the objectively correct answer is. But I still think you could draw conclusions from science done on the subject. It might be a moral question, but it might be valuable to base your answer on empirical data and, confirmed, tested information. Um, so I think it can always be applied and can always be useful, as long as it's applied correctly. Um, should we worry about which logic system we're using to test hypotheses? I mean, yes, I do think that it's always valid to entertain like questions like that. I do think it's helpful to have a standardized approach and logic system for testing hypotheses. It just makes, I guess, results and tests more comparable between each other. But I still do think that it's always going to be valuable to entertain the idea that maybe there's a better approach, and kind of see where that goes. You know, And is this something you do? I mean, not really on a daily basis, but yes, in general, I do. I do think that it's important, to think about that kind of thing, and for anything where I'm kind of thinking about what the results of a study are or something like that, I do kind of try to analyze the way that I'm analyzing the information, what kind of logic I'm using or applying to sort of figure out the meaning.